What is a survival myth that is completely wrong and could get you killed?
Perhaps not really a myth, but something people may think is true after watching people get rescued from the water on TV. Get them breathing and send them on their merry way. If you rescue someone from a near drowning, they still need to go to the hospital, even though they are safely on land now. The lungs are coated with a slippery mucus-like substance called a surfactant. It's kind of a lubricant and it keeps them from collapsing and sticking to themselves. If they ingested a lot of water into the lungs, chances are they have washed away the surfactant. Their lungs could collapse at any moment and their ability to uptake oxygen is reduced. Get the survivor on oxygen. Source: rescue-trained scuba diver here.
Can confirm, dry drowning is a thing. Past lifeguard.
That bears can't run down hills. They can. They'll get you too.
I was actually going to try and find this fact, and what do you know, it's at the top. Bears are no joke. They run, climb and swim like a damn CrossFit junkie jacked up on meth. Another thing is they don't gas out quickly. I've seen videos of bears running full speed then swimming across a river and running full speed again to catch prey. Insane.
Drowning people do not cry for help or make gestures to try and get someone's attention. What they are doing is trying to stay afloat and trying to catch their breath. Never count on a cry for help.
If you go into a lake when in a car, don't wait until the car fills with water, just open the window and get out ASAP. If you wait, you could be 200 feet down or flipped over on the bottom. The power will still work for a short time. It only takes a few seconds. Edit source: Must Buddy did his master thesis on exactly this and I got to practice it several times in a pool.
Zigzag to escape an alligator. Alligators can turn, but will only run in short bursts. Just run as fast as you can.
Fun fact: alligators only run for short durations because the way they wiggle when they run compresses their lungs so they can't breathe while running. Another fun fact: same.
Wait until you hear the freight train sound to go to the tornado shelter. I was always told as a kid, if you can't hear it you're alright. At 20 years old I was caught out in the woods with a few friends thinking we had 10 to 15 minutes to get back to the truck after the tornado warning went out. 3 minutes after the warning we heard what sounded like a freight train and this loud hissing sound. Like 1,000 rattlesnakes. Within 30 seconds we were watching trees get plucked up into the air. We all made it out all right. Luckily there was a large ravine that was dry that time of year and we scrambled into it and flattened out gripping to each other and rocks for dear life. It took 30 seconds from the time we realized it was in front of us till it was on top of us. Later in life I watched a F3 touchdown. Because how tornadoes spin and the earth spins, and I was traveling at 75 miles per hour down a highway. I thought I was running alongside it. About 1 mile from it. I couldn't hear it. I could see trees and barns going up into the air with it. I never realized it was coming towards me at about 30 miles per hour. By the time I heard it and felt a pressure change inside the cab of my truck, I had no choice but to bail out and run into a culvert alongside the interstate. This all happened within 60 seconds. If you've already heard the tornado, you need to be in your shelter, not heading towards it. A tornado watch is an advisory to be watching for tornadoes. It means it is highly plausible for a tornado to form and touch down. A warning means a radar-indicated tornado has touched down and possibly even been spotted by human eye. If you cannot get indoors, get as low as you can. I have made a habit, as soon as a tornado watch is released in my county, my go bag, the diaper bag, the kids' stuff they will need all goes in a large duffel in the storm room. I'll watch velocity radar like a hawk until the watch is cleared. If it is elevated to a warning we all pile in. Tornadoes can drop out of the sky right on top of you in under a minute, leaving you with little to no reaction time.
That you can easily disarm someone holding you at gunpoint.
Detroit urban survival flashbacks.
If you're driving during a tornado warning, don't get out of your car and climb up the side of an overpass to hide under a bridge. This myth became famous after amateur video of a man and his daughter hiding under an overpass, but the one they chose had some unusual construction that offered them protection in a way most don't. Wind speed increases the higher you get from the ground, and the narrow passages can create a wind tunnel effect, taking the flying debris picked up by the tornado and sending it straight through you at 200 miles per hour or more. Edit. Well, this blew up. Here is the video I was referencing. Actually not amateur, but taken by a TV crew during the April 24, 1991 outbreak in Kansas. Link. And for someone who suggested you can just outrun tornadoes because they only move at 20 miles per hour, that is definitely not true, as the 2013 El Reno tornado showed us all too tragically. Link.
What about lying in a ditch? Genuine question.
In Australia at least, you do not need to identify or try to catch the snake that bit you. The antivenom is universal. Source, link. And #X200B. Excerpt. Do not try to catch, kill or identify the snake. This is important. In hospital we no longer need to know the type of snake. It doesn't change treatment. 5 years ago we would do a test on the bite, blood or urine to identify the snake so the correct anti-venom can be used. But now, we don't do this. Our new antivenom neutralizes the venoms of all the 5 listed snake genus, so it doesn't matter what snake bit the patient. Read that again: 1 injection for all snakes. Polyvalent is our one-shot wonder, stocked in all hospitals, so most hospitals no longer stock specific antivenoms. Edit. Added source reference. Edit 2. Thanks VM for the awards, wow. Also changed antivenom to its correct term, antivenom. Edit 3. Common questions in thread. Does this work for spiders too? Not that I can tell. The official guidelines are published per Australian state. They all seem to agree on the following regarding hospital treatment of snake bites: if the type of bite can be determined by analysis at the hospital and the monovalent antivenom is available, use it. Otherwise use the polyvalent, universal, antivenom. Is this available in other countries? I do not know, I have only researched here and I am sharing what I have found as an Aussie with no medical qualifications. If you research your own country's info, I suggest you include polyvalent in your search. First aid advice in all states includes: do not clean the wound or remove any clothes. Example of official procedure. Link. Edit 4. Bringing attention to comment from you, Rex_CC 7567, thanks mate. Antivenom is not universal. Some are polyvalent and can treat an array of species, but there is no universal antivenom for now according to Australians NHMRC. Link. Nonetheless, don't try to catch a snake is obviously a good advice. ****, I agree with Rex in that I'd trust the government info over the polyvalent company's info. However, the Paris Universal document referenced is speaking only in the context of Australia, while ironically the Australian government document is written with international context. The myth to bust remains the same: don't suck the wound or clean it or remove clothing or try to catch the snake.
Also, do not do an hour's worth of hockey training after being bitten. Knew a guy who did that.
Do not try to leave a deserted island. If you are stuck, you will almost certainly die before someone spots you.
All good. Gilligan's Island taught me it's better to stay put and spend my resources making bamboo golf carts and bathtubs.
Do not wander off to look for help. Stay put. Stay by your car or wherever you realize that you are lost. The more you move, the harder it gets for rescue to find you. Make yourself visible, but do not try to find the way back yourself. You already don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going.
More just a, hey, don't do that. Leave large animals alone. Even if you find, say, a large track or droppings that make you think, hey, that's probably a big enough animal to kill me. Leave the area. Herbivores like moose or elk or bison can kill you just as easily as a bear. Often far more likely because they see you as the predator. Don't close the distance if you find a large critter. I don't care if the photo is pooty from that distance. Better to have a crappy photo of a bison than get crushed and stomped in the middle of nowhere to bleed out alone.
I can't help but laugh sometimes at videos of people having to dip out when they piss off bison. It's a 3,000+ pound tank made of meat, and they are ornery at the best of times. How did they think that was gonna play out?
In colder months especially, if you're lost in the forest woods, build a bed first. Get your ass off the ground, as the ground will suck your body heat away from you way faster than the air temperature will.
I don't know if this is considered as a survival myth, but engaging street fights is never a good option. If there is an altercation that may lead to a street fight, just stay calm and run away from the situation. No one wins real street fight. Someone will either end up in a hospital or in a funeral. That's just the truth.
And if you can't run away, don't fight fair. Fighting fair is for martial arts contests. But definitely run away first.
Punching the biggest guy in prison on your first day.
Real talk, from an actual former criminal, your best bet in jail, prison is to just be normal and blend in. It isn't as extreme as media makes it out to be.
Landing in water from high up is going to kill you. 10 meters, 15, MAAAAAYBE 20, tilde you might tilde you'll probably be fine if you land properly. Get much higher than that is getting into broken bones and death territory.
Not really advice, but it was a funny thing my brother said. If you ever fall from an airplane and you have the choice between concrete and water, choose concrete. At least that way your freshly crippled body won't have to try and swim afterwards.
If you're unfortunate enough to be in a bank whilst an armed robbery is underway, don't be a hero. The banks are insured and the money can be replaced. Your life can't be replaced. Just because the robbers didn't go into the bank with the intention of killing anyone doesn't mean they still won't if spooked, challenged. A living witness is better than a dead hero.
We did robbery training when I worked in a casino. Didn't need to be told not to give a FK about people taking money that doesn't belong to me, that's for sure.
Building a raft to sail to civilization if you ever find yourself marooned on a deserted island. Stay on the island and be found alive vs never found or found dehydrated and dead of exposure. Also walking to safety if you get lost and your car breaks down. Stay with the vehicle. They always find the vehicle. Its inhabitants, not so much. Edit. Since this comment has seemed to blow up, let me preface this with I am not a rescue professional and just reposting what seems like good advice I have seen on Reddit. Do your own research. Every situation is different.
If you're that F-ed, burn a tire a bit away from the car. Thick black smoke will be visible for a long ways.
If you get stabbed by something, do not try to remove the object. You will make it worse and potentially bleed to death, depending on where you were stabbed, if you try and pull it out. Leave it be and get help.
When I was in elementary school, a kid from a different school got stabbed with a brush during a child play. It went through his lung and probably in a state of shock he immediately removed the object. He died as a result of it. Since then in every health class we were taught this, and this story was used as an example. Scary stuff.
Opening windows during a tornado. Even as a child growing up in the Midwest I never understood this. I always thought, doesn't it let the high winds in? I remember in first grade we had a tornado warning and some of the teachers were wasting time by opening windows.
Greater than even as a child growing up in the Midwest I never understood this. I always thought, doesn't it let the high winds in? Yeah, the idea of opening windows during a tornado was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how they destroyed buildings. People thought they caused buildings to explode because of the change in air pressure, when it's really the winds and debris doing the damage.
Don't drink water from cactus. It's not potable and likely to trigger vomiting, diarrhea, and you will get more dehydrated.
Yes, I believe there's this one very specific species where the water is safe to drink, but in general cactus water is a big no-no.
Follow flying birds to find water. They could be flying anywhere.
Like away from the water they were just at.
Punching a shark in the nose. Have you seen a shark nose? It's slippery and angles down into 3 rows of teeth. Go for the eyes if you need to, but mostly avoid acting like a wounded seal. If you flail around like asterisk, it's gonna eat me. The shark will feel obliged to do so. I guess I'll eat you, asterisk shark.
In the same way, scream underwater to repel a shark. How the F do you scream underwater?
I'm still not clear on if you're supposed to drink your pee or not. Edit. Okay. Thank you everybody for telling me not to drink piss and making the same dodgeball quote over and over. I get the point now.
Not. You can distill it and get some water back though.
Most people probably are aware of this, but if you're legit suffering from diarrhea, you need to be doing more than just drinking water because you're also losing a lot of salts, electrolytes, and not replenishing those can really F you up. You can make a pretty basic Pedialyte Gatorade at home from adding 6 teaspoons of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt per liter of water. It won't taste super great, but you can throw in other flavorings to mask it like lemon juice or similar. First did Peace Corps in a tropical region, and most of the volunteers came to dread the inevitable parasite, GI infection episodes, not just because of being incredibly sick but also because of having to drink liters and liters of ORS, which is Peace Corps' preferred Pedialyte knockoff. Haha. Edited to show more accurate salt and sugar amounts. I wasn't aware that ORS was the unbranded, legit name for this electrolyte cocktail boot. I do mention it in the third paragraph, and I've already gotten 50 comments from people correcting me.
Most pharmacies stock electrolyte powder. It's worth having a few sachets available for when you need it. Tastes bloody awful but will make you feel a lot better.
Everyone focuses on food and water but completely underestimates how quickly exposure will kill you dead. In some cases, you won't last 24 hours. Bonus addition to this, every guide I have ever read says to make fire first. Making fire is effing hard sometimes. There are many environments where you flat cannot guarantee a good fire, deserts, because of lack of fuel and anything especially wet. If you get halfway through the night and realize you can't make fire, you are going to have problems. So make shelter. You can always guarantee a shelter and insulated sleeping spot. Make sure your bedding is at least 4 inches thick when you lay on it. I guarantee you'll underestimate just how bad the ground sucks the heat out of you. Make your shelter as small, thick and weatherproof as possible.
Went for a survival camp in the forest with scouts once. The first shelter I made was really tall, about 4 feet, and I didn't put much insulation in it and was freezing. The next shelter I made was between 2 fallen logs and stuffed as much moss as I could in all the cracks, had about 4 inches of moss and pine needles on the ground and on the roof. I actually got too hot during the night, but I'd rather wake up in a pool of sweat than freeze my nuts off.
Yup, I made a similar mistake when I was learning. TBH, that's why I wanted to mention it. Anyone can sweat their tits off at 40 degrees working hard in the daylight and then think F I'm hot now, it'll be fine when I go to bed, and have no clue the life-threatening hell they are in for. My first shelter was barely better than a tarp lean-to and a thin pile of damp moss, and I coulda made kebabs with my nips in the morning. Now I know how to bury bedroll burritos if I'm desperate, or my sentimental favorite, I dug a shallow grave for myself, burned a fire to coals on it, tossed a bunch of yucca fronds to insulate me from the ash, tossed a crappy like $20 sleeping bag in and threw a tarp over the top and slept like a sweaty baby, haha. It was in the Great Basin way the F up at like 6,000 feet in spring. Got below freezing but I was comfier than my friend in the truck, haha. I shared that story ages ago in a survival sub and someone dubbed it the luau barbecue pit method, and I'm running with it XD. My most practical fave is the debris hut though.
Don't tie a rope around your waist and expect it to save you from a fall. Sure, it might prevent you from hitting the ground, but you can still damage your internal organs and break your back doing this. Safety harnesses go around your hips and legs, not your waist. Effing Dark Knight Rises.
Gwen Stacy taught me this one.
I'd appreciate if the comments here clarify if the advice they're saying is the myth, or the actual fact that's opposing a myth.
Mythbuster tested the myth about ships dragging people down with them. They rated this myth as false. But they were wrong. Greater than surfacing, Lightoller spotted the ship's crow's nest, now level with the water, and started to swim towards it as a place of safety before remembering that it was safer to stay away from the foundering vessel. Then, as water flooded down one of the forward ventilators, Lightoller was sucked under. He was pinned against the grating for some time by the pressure of the incoming water, until a blast of hot air from the depths of the ship erupted out of the ventilator and blew him to the surface. Link. Large ships are incredibly dangerous when they are sinking. They can drag you down with them or they can roll on top of you. You should always swim away from them.
Also, modern boats are full of fuel oil, lubricating grease, hydraulic oil, diesel, and a wide variety of other fluids which both float on water and are flammable. It's quite difficult to clear your face, eyes, and hair if you surface through a heavy slick of this crap. Additionally, it's dangerous and difficult to swim through a floating debris field, especially if you're now blind. Bottom line, if you have to bail without a lifeboat, do it on the windward side of the boat because the wind will help push the oil slick and debris away from you. They teach this in the Navy. Alcohol does not warm you up. You feel warm since it's dilating your blood vessels in your face and extremities, but that causes you to lose more heat to the environment and therefore will make you die of hypothermia quicker if anything.
I've always wondered this, could alcohol be used as a fuel or accelerant instead of drinking it? I can imagine that if so, that'd actually make it pretty useful.
I don't know if this is a tip necessary, but humans can easily go a week if not 2 without any food. No water is another story, so that's more important if you ever find yourself in that situation.
Reminds me of the survival rule of 3. You can generally survive 3 minutes of non-breathable air, 3 days without drinkable water, 3 weeks without food. Edit 3 hours of exposure to extreme hot cold. Thanks to other commenters for this one. Edit to say that these aren't hard timers. More of a guide that if you fix that problem within the time frame you can survive, recover without, hopefully, permanent damage to your body.
Is this a myth? If you're wandering in the wilderness, wondering if the plants and water are safe to eat and drink, watch what the animals do. They will show you the safe plants and water. Spoiler. This is not true. Many animals are evolved to consume things that are poisonous to us, or nutritionally valueless. Case in point. Vultures.
My dog ate an entire rancid rotisserie chicken and I was the one who suffered his nasty ass farts. He, on the other hand, seemed unfazed and only felt mild shame when I discovered what he had done. If I had eaten a rancid chicken, I doubt I would be so fortunate. The best outcome would be hellish food poisoning. And that's a domesticated animal. Wild animals can eat a lot more. Just thinking of all the raw seafood they consume. Coyotes eating raw chicken. Rabbits eating their offspring's actual poo.
Not taking the brace position on planes. And #X200B. PLEAE, for the love of God, just brace, it will, save you.
The RAF had rear-facing seats on the VC-10 transports. Don't know if they carried on with the newer aircraft. Increases survival chances apparently. Would be interesting to see domestic passengers' reactions to flying sat backwards.
If lost in a hot desert, do not ration out your water. Drink when you are thirsty and stay hydrated with what you have, even if it only lasts a couple hours, just to keep your mind, body working. Lost hikers have been found dead with plenty of water by their sides because they tried to ration it, became dehydrated without realizing it and eventually died. And no, I still don't know if drinking your pee is a survival alternative.
In our ELOB school they told us this. Drink when you're thirsty, don't put it off. Edit. IIRC. It was basically logic along the lines of, if you're starting to feel thirsty you needed to drink water 30 minutes ago. Edit. ELOB. Expeditionary learning outward bound is a teaching method. Link.
Not so much a survival myth but a common camping mistake that an amateur survivalist might make. Never use rocks that are in or close to a riverbed for a campfire. Ever. Many get tiny bits of water trapped inside the rocks. Then when heated by a fire, it turns into a lovely grenade due to the water being heated. AMD turned into steam, expanding quickly. Hot bits of rock everywhere. People like river rocks because they are smooth and easy to cook off of and they look cool, but they are crazy dangerous. Plenty of rocks all around. Find another.
We found this out in Scouts when I was around 12. I'm amazed no one got hurt. Everyone just thought it was cool.
That the first thing you need to do is make a fire. Fire's no good if it starts raining. Shelter and raised bed first. Even if you can't get a fire going or collect water, you'll have a dry place to sleep through the night to get a fresh start in the morning. Edit. As others have mentioned, it depends on your situation. The op asked for a survival myth. Before the days of the internet, a lot of people seem to have the idea that you always built a fire first.
And raised bed is hella important. Insulates you from the cold. Ground will suck the warmth right out of you. And the wet, and any bugs, snakes, etc. that tend to cross the area you've laid down in. If you're in a life-threatening situation and lost without supplies, illnesses, diseases in unfiltered water will kill you way slower than dehydration. Drink the damn water and deal with the consequences later, when you're found.
You should try your best to filter, sterilize it first though, boil it, put it through your shirt, fold it up, etc. But if help is on the way, as in they know where you are and told you to that they are coming for you, and you're quite literally dying from thirst, then drink the water.
Pretty much every video shown on Detroit Urban Survival Training's channel.
If trapped, lost in snowstorm while driving. A. Do not leave your car. You are literally inside a shelter already. A shiny one. It is easier to spot a snow-covered vehicle than a snow-covered corpse. B. Do not keep your engine running. It's a snowstorm, your exhaust will block, you will nap. Snugger bugger, you're dead. Wait for storm to pass, check exhaust is clear, Run engine in short bursts. C. If you have ignored these steps, and are now walking in the snowstorm, because your sense of direction is flawless, do not remove any clothing layers. You will believe you are getting hot. You will rationalize it's from burning calories. You will die. The hot feeling is you losing body temp. You are now slowly dying. If you still have your wits, retrace your steps and head straight back to your car. Wait for rescue. Edit. Thank you everyone. And thank you Teets and Jay Holgate for reminding me of the long ago case that inspired this post, the death of James Kim. Via Teets, link. Mr. Kim's death is actually described in C. In case anyone's wondering, they actually did many things correctly, after getting lost. I think Mr. Kim left the vehicle out of panic for his family. Nothing makes you fear death more than finally having a life you would die for. While he died, his wife and child lived because they stuck to the car, and left many visuals for helicopter pilot John Raychaw to track. I have never believed in pointless lives or deaths nor coincidences. Pilot discovered location on a hunch. I frankly believe Mr. Kim's death may have already saved enough lives to formally make his death a noble one. Edit 2. Awesome find. McCarter photo. Link.
But, if your car runs off the road and the weather clears, get out and walk or run to nearest town. Your car will most likely not be visible. People have died in Sweden by waiting in their car for days, just an hour's walk from a town.
If a bear finds you, run downhill. They can't run downhill. I have to imagine some arsehole started this when he wanted to watch his other arsehole friend get mauled to death. They can absolutely run downhill and they are shockingly fast. They can also run up trees terrifyingly fast as well. FYI, the mama bear thing really applies to brown bears. Black bear attacks are incredibly rare and usually only from hungry and/or aggressive males. I've done a lot of wildlife photography of bears and I've spoken to a lot of wildlife biologists about this. When I photograph black bears and their cubs, they are very docile. If something or you spook them, they will chase their cubs up a tree and then guard the bottom of the tree. They won't attack you. If it's a male black bear, they'll likely wander on but always keep distance. If you encounter a black bear, make as much noise as possible and make yourself seem as big as possible. If you encounter a brown bear, start very slowly backing up. Never run away and never turn your back. If it's going to attack you and there's nothing can do, lay on your stomach with your hands over the back of your neck and play dead. They primarily attack when they are surprised or threatened. If the surprised threat is gone, they will most likely move on. But please, for the love of God, never run away and never climb a tree.
If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. Don't drink alcohol to stay warm. It dehydrates you. That's the only old one I remember. Learn from Survivor Man to eat the whole rabbit because the meat is so lean. Without eating the organs, you won't get the necessary nutrients. Learn from a book called Peak to sleep with your water bottle in your sleeping bag so it doesn't freeze in the cold.
I don't know if this counts as survival myth, but you don't actually have to, and probably shouldn't, wait 48 hours to report someone as missing. Those first hours are crucial, so report someone as missing immediately.
Especially if it's a child. Missing children are at high risk during the first 24 hours, especially if abducted. In 76% of child abduction murders, the victim was dead within 3 hours. 88.5% were dead in the first 24 hours. Source. Link.
You should rub frostbitten skin. Don't, ever. Frostbite occurs when ice crystals form in your skin and other tissues. Rubbing the injury causes more tissue damage as the ice crystals lacerate new cells. Instead, treat the victim with painkillers as you slowly rewarm the tissue. Frostbite hurts. Also, you can't survive solely off natural survival foods. Any survival book will show you how to harvest inner tree bark for food or how to boil and reboil lily pad tubers and skunk cabbage so they are palatable. You'll also learn that hemlock needles are edible, plus how to cook and eat snails and so on. These are considered survival foods because they're things that are edible that you wouldn't likely eat in a normal situation. The myth here is that you can survive off them for an extended length of time. But the reality is, if you are only eating survival foods, you'll start feel sick and weak after a day or two. Some of these survival foods also have little to zero caloric value, which makes them pointless to eat. Another big one is if an animal eats something, it's safe for you to eat it. It's not.
You should always fight back when you are being robed with a deadly weapon. This is false. Only counter-attack if you have the opportunity to, or unless you do not have any other options. Do not counter-attack if someone is aiming a gun towards your head, like in the videos from Detroit Urban Survival. Visit Active Self-Protection on YouTube for better tactics.
Alternatively, if someone is trying to take you to a second location, fight like hell because they'll probably kill you at the second location.
After getting bitten by a snake trying to suck out the venom, do not do that. By sucking the area of the bite, your blood flows faster and increases the speed of the venom acting on your body. It'll just get to your heart quicker and kill you. For the love of God, do not eat everything raw. If I see another episode of Bear Grylls eating a bat or bird as raw as sashimi, I think I'll go crazy. You should absolutely try your best to cook the food you've nabbed. Even if it's through an open fire for a few minutes. Eating, say, a dead bird that may or may not have bird flu is a hell of a lot worse than creating a fire to cook it over. Congrats for completely screwing yourself by eating raw wild meat. Edit 1. **** Holy bird flu Batman. I just woke up and saw that my inbox exploded. Edit 2. **** Holy grammar. I was tired and I was using voice to text. Fixed a lot of it now.
That reminds me of this video I saw about a dude from World War II who survived so long out at sea, he eventually had to resort to literally drinking bird blood to sustain himself. IDK, how that's even possible, lol. Edit. His name was Poon Lim and he survived for 133 days. This isn't really a survival myth that anyone spreads, but when I was a kid I thought if I jumped out of a plane on top of a table, I could jump off the table just before hitting the ground, and since the table was below me and therefore was really the falling object, in my child brain, and I was only falling as a result of being on the table, that my upward momentum just before impact would cancel out the rate of descent of the table and I could land safely on my feet. Good thing I never tested it.
When I was a kid I had this exact same theory, only for elevators. In my mind, I could just leap off the floor right before impact. Tears of joy.
Yes, I definitely thought the same thing. The airplane, skyscraper PR1 was just more prominent to me because I fancied myself some kind of superhero in my mind. Jumping off buildings and out of planes and stuff LMAO.
Don't call 911 but change your voicemail to let people know where you are if you're stranded and need help. Call 911. You can lose valuable battery power footsing around with voicemail, but you can use low power mode and still call 911.
I have actually never heard this before and am dumbfounded that it's considered a survival tip.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.